Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Voice in the Hollow. I'm your host, Miguel Ortega. Tran is not going to make it today. She's usually here, but I think she was working till like an hour ago. She hasn't slept, so I'll be taking over. So yeah, this is a weekly vlog showing the making of an animated short film in Unreal Engine 5. Very small team. It's mostly two of us, and then we are bringing in people from the outside to help us with certain tasks that we need help on. But yeah, let me set this up here. So first from Jamaica, Jace Cover, what's up? Peter's Animation, what's up? So yeah, we're getting to the end of the line here. We're almost done this week. Just trying to polish up this section here. I'll play it real quick. Let me see.
Unadhani unaniogopesha? Baba, angalia sasa nitakachokifanya. Nina nguvu, mimi ni chuma.
So that section there, hold on one second. That section there is all done. Pretty happy with how that turned out. All the clothing simulations and everything are done. This is scene right after that. This is almost entirely done. It actually is all done, but some of the renders were done on Tran's computer last night, and I haven't gotten them in here yet. But these doing some tests with like heavier wear on the footage, so you could see much more damage and scratches and whatever. Something that I think we're gonna end up going this route, like this heavy of damage on it. The big inspiration for this was I had maybe like 3 months that I was watching like 2 or 3 movies a day, and most of them were from the 60s and 70s. A lot of them were like revenge exploitation movies, and that's where we really came up with the idea for this entire project. So that's why we want to try to put that grindhouse kind of vibe to this unreal aesthetic, kind of mess it up, grade it. You can see all of this now has clothing simulation, so there's wind blowing on everything.
Sasa najua ninachotaka. Baba anakutafuta. Lazima twende sasa hivi. Mkaka wako karibia unichome. Sasa hivi. Ningetaka kukuchoma.
This shot I really like. You can see the wind is really blowing nicely here. So all of that is Marvelous Designer. All the characters are shot modeled and then brought into Marvelous.
Ningetaka kukuchoma, ningekuchoma. Lazima twende. Ngoja tuone kama utapenda. Jaribu. Rusha kwanza. Kisha ni zamu yangu. Umeogopa? Wewe si chui.
This shot was pretty tricky because the wind is blowing really strong and her mask is almost like falling off here.
Umeogopa?
So it almost feels like it's not simmed correctly, but it is. It's just a really windy day. You're just not used to seeing masks on windy days because no one wears, that kind of mask. I was about to say no one wears masks, but everyone wears masks.
Si chui. Tafadhali kaa kimya. Na hiyo barakoa yako ya kichini. Na kuonya. Wewe ni aibu kwa baba.
So this part here, also getting this thing all done. There's a couple shots here that are not finished, so we want to have more effects, like blood coming out of the wound there, and we're gonna go in and retexture some of them so that they have more blood on them. This gets really dark. So looking at this here, I could see like we have to go back and fix right there. You can see that finger is going through the mask. So probably have to kick that back to shot modeling to fix that on the detail. So there'll be blood, like a blood puddle on this floor here that we don't have in place yet. You see the wind and everything is working really good. This is a shot. I don't have it here. Tran has it. Maybe I'll in a few minutes I'll be able to take it, but you can see right now like the feet are not really doing anything. So we brought this into a shot modeling program, and then instead of doing a sim on it in Houdini or something, just went in and frame by frame basically started pushing the dirt in as her foot was kicking in the ground. I didn't think it was going to work, but it worked extremely well. So I'll be able to show that in a little bit. And this, obviously she doesn't have clothing here. This one's not simmed yet. And the feet, you can see her going through the ground, but this is one of the last shots. And this one that we need to, this one here, these three for this section here. But yeah, so that's coming along. So jumping forward, this is what I've been focusing on, is this section here. So there's going to be like a continuity, a lack of continuity, I should say, in terms of the girls and their mask, in particular the dead one. You can see here she doesn't have a mask. When I'm doing the rough edit, the masks tend to give problems when I'm trying to cash it out because it's using constraints and it takes a little bit more steps. And it's also because I figured like I'm just working on the edit. Eventually I'll be able to replace it with the final one. So I'm just worried about the story, but now I need to actually go in and replace them with the masks. This shot we'll probably do today, just try to put her in there with some motion. So we'll do that in a little bit. And of course, none of these have clothing simulations. That's why they're all naked at the moment. No faces on that. And then you see they go down to their death. So let's get this going because I still want to fix a few things. So here when she falls on top of her and they fall into the abyss, I want a few more shots. You can see that just kind of finishes really quickly. So I just want more shots of them tumbling. And let's put, I got to figure out what this is here. This is really weird. I'm getting these like really bright highlights. I thought it was holes in the geometry, but it's not. So I need to figure out what that is. And I need the face right here. You can see she's dead there and she's not saying anything. And all the vines are missing on these. That's fine. I'll put that in later. But let's do this one here. Let's get her into this shot here. So you can see she's hanging there, but she's not moving. So let's just do that. So we'll just open up Unreal and plop her in there. Thank you guys. So thank you. Numbsculpt. Samuel, thank you, man. First from Jamaica. You're always the first. And Peter's animation. So yeah, we're getting close to being done. We're working just an absurd amount of hours at this point to try to finish this. There's a few things we want to add to it. We want to add some 2D animation to this one section. We've been talking to 2D animators to go in and add an effect similar to the Fantasia ghosts when they're in that mountain. If we have the time, we'll definitely do that. So this is opening up, and then we'll throw her in there. So what I'll probably do, since it's so far away, I'll probably look at the animation that I have for this shot here, and I'll see if I could reuse a portion of it. That way I don't have to redo it, since she's just kind of reaching up. I'll probably just do that. Usually what I do, since we're doing all this with motion capture, I'll bring in a much longer section than I actually need. And then that'll give me like filler stuff or stuff like this, like, you know, a wide shot. I have more than a few frames to pull from. So none of these have any color correction on them, these falling into the whole shots. So that'll add a lot to it. The other thing I also want to do is constantly have like debris falling down. So that'll be another thing that I need to add in there. So that'll be cool. So let's see how this is going. Unreal takes a moment to open up, so just hang in there. The other thing we need to figure out, so we have this section here where she tries to get rid of the body. Again, you can see they're all naked on this. So this animation has to get reworked. I don't like it, but we did this crazy Houdini sim of like blood, like this blood liquid pouring out of these cracks. Problem is that Unreal has like a 2 gig limit on Alembics, and this is like an 80 gig Alembic, so I have to figure out how the hell I'm going to get that in there. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. So let's just open up the map. So this is our wide shot of the inside of the cave. Okay, and let's open up our map for that. I believe it's this one here. Yeah. So you can see we have all our cameras and lights everywhere. So, okay, so let's just go in there and fix this here. So this is what we have at the moment. She's not animated, so let's look through our alembics. I believe it's this one that I would want to use, so let's just take a look. Takes a moment. I think the toughest thing with Unreal is just the size of the files are so astronomical that that's the bottleneck at this point with this stuff is the file sizes are so big. So you want to open anything, it takes an eternity. You want to transfer anything or make a backup, it takes an eternity. So that's something I've never experienced before. Like usually with VFX stuff, it's all in the rendering that takes long, not necessarily the file sizes being this gigantic. Because ultimately, your Unreal project is one project, and that has every alembic, every texture, and you see we get this like just nonstop crashing. So yeah, I get that at least 10 times a day, which is pretty crazy, and it takes a few minutes to get back up and running. So while that's doing that, let's just keep looking at some of this edit stuff. Okay, so another thing, let me just open this up here. So this is another area that I think we're going to do some work on. So it's when she approaches the cave for the first time. Let me come back a little bit here. So right there, if I stop, that's kind of the issue. She's coming up to this tree and she's going into this kind of trance here. But we feel that we need a few more frames of her POV. We need to see her see the actual tree from her POV and see the crescent moon behind it, which we just don't see any of that. So we kind of feel that this is going into a trance too abruptly. So we're gonna have to add some shots here, and this is the area where we're thinking about doing the 2D animation, just having some stuff moving around here, some spectral lights or something, just to make it feel, or spectral shapes coming out of the hole, which we think could look really cool. So that's definitely something we're considering doing. Not considering, we're probably gonna do it. So let's see how this is going. So let's try that one more time. Luckily, things open faster. Once they've opened once, so you can see that opened pretty quickly. So let's go to sequence, inside cave, wide, master. let's go to our alembics and find koa hanging A. And this is it here. So let's just get it in there. I'm going to close Premiere. Does anybody have any questions, Amina, of that shot, the bloom around that? It looks so beautiful. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a pretty cool shot. I like backlit shots. We've used less backlit shots on this project than normal. I normally love me some backlit shots, but this one we haven't used as many. So I'm just gonna copy the settings here and get her into position. So let's see where she's at. There she is. One of the things that's crazy difficult is when you bring in alembics, if you have them in the real world position, the pivot is always at 0, 0, 0. So when you go to move it, the pivot is completely offset. Oh my God, this literally, I think we'd be done with this project a month ago if it wasn't for that. We spend more time doing this than almost anything. And there's not a lot you could do. Like you can't really center pivot correctly. You can right click and center it for a second, but it's not the same as like in Maya. So you just find yourself just trying to find things and reposition it from, you can see this pivot being completely not where you want it to be and the model being somewhere completely different. It's really painful. So, okay, so let's get the animation in there. So I'm going to throw that in there and let's see what's going on. So let's undo this. This is, without a doubt, if you ask Tran or I what has been our biggest obstacle, it has been dealing with that. It's just a nightmare. Besides the crashes, this alembic issue. You can see like the only way I could work, I have to zoom out. So it's crazy. So I could try to reposition the pivot to kind of temporarily place it where she's at. So I'll probably start doing that. But you know, this in Maya would be center pivot done. All right, let's see. So that's looking pretty good. Let's get her kind of in the same position. I'm going to hide these other ones. This one here as well. Yeah. So you can see I'm like putting all of these objects into my sequencer, which is an object I don't actually need. The old ala. So I don't want to sound too whiny today, but I'm gonna be a little bit whiny. So normally you'd think I would just select this stuff and delete it. That's another issue that we've been having a lot. If I just press delete, there's a 50% chance that I'm gonna crash. So since we're doing the stream, I'm not going to take that risk. So I'm just going to throw it into this. One of the things that we've kind of found to be a workaround is to throw it into our sequencer, convert it into a spawnable object, and then press delete. Because what usually happens is if you press delete, even if it's an object you just threw into your scene for the very first time, you press delete, it'll say computing references, and it kind of tries to see what other projects it's in. It'll take 30 minutes and then it'll delete it, or it'll take 30 minutes and then crash. However, if you turn it into a spawnable object first, it tends to go a little bit faster if it doesn't crash. But for now, just for safety, I'm just going to throw it in there and I'll just delete this later. So, but yeah, these are just the things that have killed us time-wise. So, okay, so let's take a look and see how that's looking. So I might shift her a little bit so her shape looks a little bit better. And I want to make sure, since we're looking at this at a distance, that we definitely get the most amount of movement. So you can see what I'm talking about here in my sequencer. I have this track here that represents the length of the animation that I have. And you can see it's a very long track. So I do that on purpose, in particular at the early stages of editing. That way I could have the flexibility, because I'm just trying to figure out what the shots look like, the composition. If I have a lot of animation, I could just be like, okay, I could just use this section here. She looks like she's calling for her dad. That'll work. Perfect. And I probably want the section where her arm goes up initially, because that's a big movement that'll read nicer from a distance. So I'll just scoot this over to the left a little bit, and you can see we'll get that right there, which looks really good. Okay. Let's move her over a little bit. You can see the issue again is the gizmo, the transform gizmo is back to who knows where. So now if we want to move her carefully, we have to kind of remove the pivot back into position. Extremely painful. This doesn't seem like it's taking that long, but when you multiply this by 1,000, it's days. So let's take a look and see. So I think I want to bring her down a little bit. So let's just, again, zoom out, try to find that gizmo. Right, we kind of want to scoot her over to the right. This guy here is kind of getting in the way, so I'm going to move that up so that her silhouette reads. And that might just be enough. So I like that. So that's cool. So let's grab that. Cool thing is that's using the same animation as the other shot, which means we'll only have to do the clothing sim on one. It's so far that you won't even notice it's the same shot. And it's using a different section. So at this point, press save in your sequencer first, and then go to File, Save All. Another thing, it crashes a lot when we press save. So if you press save in the sequencer first, it tends to at least save what you did on the sequencer in case it crashes. At this point, we already have the Olympics inside. Everything is in there. So if we lose anything else, there probably isn't a lot. It's mostly changes in the sequencer. So first we'll save here, and then we'll save File, Save All. File, Save All triggers lots of crashes. So let's convert to spawnable, and let's just take a look and see. So that looks cool. You can barely even see her moving, but that's okay. I might want to lower her, and then maybe have the other sister hanging above. But I think for now, I'm going to leave it like this. So what I'll probably do is I'll kick this off to put into the edit. So at this point, everything is low quality settings. So I have my presets here for high quality and for quick render. So I'll just do a quick render. So it's K-fall. Let's see what we have here. It might actually be here. Where did I put this? Give me 1 second. There it is. So let's just kick this off. So things I do before I kick it off to render is I'll just go to lit, set it to unlit, make sure I don't have any heavy GPU programs on at the moment. I do have Maya, and this is, you can see this is actually the exact animation for that sequence. So she's dangling on this. So I'll close this. So let's just save this and kick that off. This is actually a pretty heavy scene. Not so much because of her, but these vines are pretty heavy. When I try to export them out as Olympics to bring into Unreal, I have to bring them in branch by branch because 200 frames, it'll easily be like 2 gigs per vine. So let me just close that up. I probably don't have to close Maya. I just want to close the scene. Let me see some of the comments here. Animated have not tested VDBs are for more for fog and stuff like that. I don't think VDBs are for geometry. Okay, so good question. With Unreal's massive file sizes, would it be possible to split the projects out per scene so they don't get as massive? Yes, but here's the problem. A lot of assets you're going to want to reuse over and over. So for example, all the rocks that we have, all the mega scans type stuff, we're going to reuse that over and over. The skeletons, the textures, going to use that over and over. If you have it on multiple projects, you're going to have the same thing duplicated over and over and over and over and over and over. So at the end, I think the file size will probably be even bigger. So that's the problem. Yeah. So numbsculpt, that's the problem. Yeah, because we tried that. Okay, so let's get that rendering. So at this point, it should render fairly quick because it's all low quality settings. Cross your fingers that we don't crash. And again, I hate to be like whiny about this stuff, but it's just a reality of it. It's not even complaining. It's just this is how it is. And every pipeline has its own issues, right? Like I'm not trying to come down on Unreal. Like when you use V-Ray stuff, that has its problems. When it's Nuke has its problems. Everything has its issues. These are just the issues that Unreal has. And the other thing is to keep in mind is we're not using the latest version of Unreal. We're using 5.0, not 5.1. So a lot of bugs might have been resolved, but we just don't want to upgrade because every time we've upgraded, it's really destroyed our lighting. Just gets all whacked out, and we just can't risk having to relight every single scene. So that's another thing. So we'll just swap that into the edit, and then we're going to jump into the scenes where they're falling into the abyss, which are very kind of abstracty shots. Just it'll probably all just be motion blurs, but those are good. Motion blurry shots are good. So, oh, that's your credits already. So we already started to block that in, so we could get a real sense of the duration. So, all right, so let's go over here. Let's see what we have here. Just kind of clean this up a little bit. So bottom layer here is all the stuff that is final. Well, not final. I kind of color code them all. So if you look at like master spear, everything that is yellow is final. So here, none of these are final because there's no clothing sims. But sometimes I'll have two layers where I'll have a new version and an old version just to compare them. All right, so let's replace that one. So we'll just come in here and bring that shot in. Bring in an image sequence. Let's take a look. So Premiere has this bug that when you sometimes bring in an image sequence, you have to bring it in twice. So that needs me to bring it in twice. Even if you turn on image sequence, it'll sometimes just require you to bring it in twice. Why? I'm not sure, but it just does it. So let's just do it. You can see now she's moving. So let's get. So that's good right there. I thought her arm was moving a little bit. There it is. Just so little. Okay, so that's it. I mean, that's what it looks like from a distance. So that's what it is. So we'll just delete the old one, put this one in position. Again, the vine will be added in later. Partially because you could see right now with these vines, you can see there's a lot of like slack underneath them. So that's stuff that needs to be fixed in animation or in shot modeling. So we'll get to that later, but we don't want to waste any time on that. Right now, it's just getting the edit to work. I do want to get more blood on this here, like pouring down. This is like the real horror moment, so I really want that to look a little bit better. Got to do the face here. So let's do these shots here as they're falling down to the abyss. So let's open up Maya and let's just take a look at what we have here. So let's take a look. What's up, Junkyard Carnival? All right, so let's open up our rigs here. So rig number 1 is our vines. Have you guys been watching the Andor show? Let's take a look and see. Here it is. So Allah, let's bring that in. So that's K rigs. What do you guys think of it? I really like it. I was seeing how they were shooting some of the scenes at like a Bugatti store. Good question. Do you render EXR files in high quality render pipeline? I've experienced replay lags in Premiere Pro when importing. Premiere Pro does not handle EXR files very well. At least the last time I was using EXRs in Premiere, it was always problematic. The color space was always weird as well. So on this one, we're just rendering out ProRes 10-bit 444. Which I figured is good enough. We're not doing a lot of compositing on this project. Everything is in render. So I didn't really need anything higher than 10-bit. But yeah, you could use EXRs in After Effects, but editing in After Effects just would suck. I'll tell you the truth. I really think the Black Magic editing is looking better and better. You pay a flat fee, you get it for life. You don't have to do the subscription model. And I don't know. I just think Black Magic is really on the ball right now. They're out for the win. From their hardware to the software. I don't know. I kind of starting to root for them big time. And I'm really considering jumping over to Black Magic for editing. I'm gonna at least give it a shot and see. Do you mean the RAM preview Sorrows and Slowness in terms of Premiere, Tetsuo? The RAM previews are crazy in Premiere. It's constantly giving me issues. But I didn't even want to talk about that because I've just been whining all day today. So, but yeah. So this is them when they're falling. Let's take a look. So this is not the final animation. This is actually actually got remade. So let me get the final one. Give me 1 second. And the reason is, one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that it looked like, so she's dead, without a doubt, she's dead at this point, but you can see that the hands are right around her neck, right? I wanted to make sure that when she drops here, that the hands naturally look like they landed on her neck as she pushes her down and they fall to their death. So in this shot that the animators did, they kind of fall separate, and I don't want that. I want it to look like that one, the dead one, is driving the other one down to hell, basically. So I want to make sure that she looks like she's choking her, even though she's not. She's dead. But yeah, that's the idea. So we can't use that. So let's grab the new animation. But you could see it's basically one gigantic sequence, like 1,200 frames, and I'll just cut around it. So everything is here. I kind of really try to shoot this like live action. I know a lot of animators hate this workflow, and they usually hate me when I tell them to work this way, but it's like, they're like, what are the cameras? And I'm like, I don't want you to animate to the cameras. I want you to animate like this was real life. Just animate it correctly and then let me find the cameras. I'm not that much of a dick about it anymore. Like, now I'll tell them to block it in, then I'll find the cameras, and then I'll send it to them in the block-in stage. I'm like, oh, probably this, and this, probably. But I still like having the entire thing and then editing around it like it's live action. Rather than, I think if you just do it like shot by shot, it tends to make it a little bit stiffer, I feel. I don't know. I just kind of like treating it like live action. That's, how I do it, but whatever works. Okay, so let's bring this in. Just give me a second. Okay, fall. I'm literally downloading the file directly from the animators that sent it to me just now. So seems like the workflow for Path Narrative Story. Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, Tetsuo, is initially I don't want to think about any of the technical stuff at all. I just kind of want to have everything in there, block out the cameras, find the story, start bringing stuff into Premiere as early as possible, figure out what works, what doesn't. Like, when you look at a lot of this stuff, I'll open this while this opens up, but a lot of this section here looks crazy rough. Like, when you look at this here, like, the ground looks terrible. She's naked in almost every shot. This looks terrible. This up here looks terrible. But you kind of have to force yourself to see past that stuff at the editing stage, or else you're never going to get anything done. And then it's just refining. If you look at what these shots here look like just a couple of weeks ago, it was like night and day. These things look terrible. So the way we've been working now, luckily with Tran's help, is, since we have this deadline to get this thing done by, at this point, I'm just like cranking through the edit, cranking through the motion capture, working with the animators, getting everything in place, rough lighting, and then pass it to Tran. And Tran is really the one that's making everything look pretty. So I do the initial composition, the initial cameras, not the initial cameras, the final cameras. and then all the animation side, I'm dealing with all of that stuff. But then she's the one that's making it look pretty at the end, and that's I think the only way we can get this done at the speed that we're getting it done. All right, so I just have to relink all this stuff again. So it's asking me for my vines. So let's look for that. So, so my rigs, my vines, these were done by the vine rigs by a student at Gnomon that just graduated, Dominic, who's very very cool that he helped us out. Okay, rigs. Let's grab co-op. All right. So this one is the update of the fall. Uh, AE RAM preview is archaically slow. You know, I haven't used After Effects much in my entire life. I've used it a few times, like 20 years ago. Um, but I'm totally a noob guy. But so let's see. You know, for all the whining I've been doing about Unreal, ultimately they're giving it to us for free. So it's amazing what they're doing. So definitely grateful. Just frustrated because we have a deadline, but very grateful for what Unreal is and what it's done for the industry. All right, so let's take a look here. So this is it right here. She drags her down. That's what I wanted. Where did she go? Did they fall that fast? Let's see. So they are falling pretty fast. Okay, well that's good. So that's really what I wanted. So let's find the area where they fall. So right around here. So my workflow now will probably be, okay, frame 440. Since there are limits to the size of my Alembic file, what I will usually do is just select the smallest section that I can. So frame 440. Let's see. Oh, I think it's like 430. Thanks, Tetsuo. We refine stuff all the freaking time. It's just never ending iterations, and I think that's what's been the hardest for us. I've said this before on this stream, is that we're very self-critical. So when they asked us to do this stream, our initial reaction was that we don't want to do it because we know that we hate everything we do for a big portion of the project. Even there's stages where we're like, oh my God, we're super happy with it. We're happy with the accomplishment at that moment, but we know we're going to end up redoing it all. And we've redone almost every shot at least 3-4 times. So I think these later shots we've redone less just because I think we've gotten a little bit better at dealing with Unreal. But ultimately, it's just a lot of reworking stuff just over and over and over and just not falling in love with anything you do. All right, so let's see. So they fall like right. So you see, it's not a lot of frames. I have like from frame 430 to 453. And this is, I just want this to be like blurs, like they're falling, they're, it's just a motion blurry mess, which is all I want. Not really moving much though. It's not very exciting. But that's okay. So, all right. So I'll select all the pieces here. Let me select the mask as well. The mask is parent constraint. So that tends to give some issues with exporting alembics. They sometimes don't export correctly. So I'm just going to go over here, alembic cache, export selection to alembic. So I'll just do time slider. I've noticed that when I set this to start/end, I get issues sometimes. So I just usually set it to time slider and just kind of set this up here however I want. So that's correct. To go around the whole parent constraint, I've noticed that if I turn on world space, that tends to fix the issue. And it usually exports the mask correctly. So now I just have to find my shot. So let's call this fall B. And let's call this Koa. So you can see it's giving me the error message that there's something called face exclusive. I'm going to turn off right face sets, and that should fix the issue. And there it goes. It's exported. So that's going to give us a whole 20 frames. But we'll be able to milk the crap out of it, so that's fine. All right, so that's that. So let's go to this here and select this area here. Let's make sure the spear is there as well. There it is. So cache, alembic cache, export selection to alembic. Let's call this ala A. Let's look at our settings real quick. That all looks fine. Export selection. And there we go. All right, so now over here, we go back to our maps and let's find our new map here. So we have two different maps for the cave. We have this wide one that looks really pretty from afar. This is a completely different map than the stuff once we zoom into it. Once you zoom in, it's a completely different map, completely different layout. Everything is completely different. It holds up much better. You just kind of have to do that. Just make different versions of your set. If you try to get everything to just look good from any distance, you're going to just spend forever. So, all right, so let's go to Inside Cave. You can see I have thumbnails of all my shots here. And let's see what we have. So I do have these falling shots. Let's just take a quick look at them and see. You can see that we also have these black spots here on our geometry that look really weird. So I have to put a command on here to turn that off. That's a double-sided rendering that is on by default in Unreal 5. So you just have to turn that off. I actually have, in my render settings, I have that as one of the scripts that it runs before it renders, just to make sure that I don't kick off a render that takes a long time and I forget to turn that off. So it's just on by default, especially if you're crashing all the time. You want to just have that ready to go, because you'll crash, you'll reopen Unreal, you trying to get back to where you were before, you'll forget to turn on that or to run that script, and then you kick off a render. It takes an hour at the high settings, and then you're like, oh my God, I forgot to turn that thing off. So I just have that in my presets, and I'll show you that in a minute. So let's just open up this this level sequence. While that does that, let's just take a look at this real quick. So if we look at like shots like this here, right, in terms of like iterations, what we were talking about earlier. So fight Koa B, like if we look at how this looks here, and we look at like an early render of it, so let's go to the very first one. You can see how much that's changed. So just a few things to note. Look at the shoulders. Look at the deformations on the shoulders. Look at the elbows. Look at the biceps. Completely busted. All of that is shot modeled frame by frame after the fact to improve it. You can see how nice that shoulder looks now. This is the faces have all been reworked with mocap X, and then the lighting has changed completely. But you can see pretty drastic changes. In particular, the shot modeling does a huge difference. Like you can see, it's the exact same angle, but just going in here, like look how clean that arm looks now compared to it before. That's the same animation. Just fixing things up in shot modeling. Just it's basically like ZBrush with a timeline. So yeah, it's huge improvements. Yeah, and some of them are even bigger than that. All right, so there's our falling. So let's take a look. So you can see these shots are just abstract madness, right? And that's really what I wanted them to be anyway. So you know what? Looking at this, it makes me think maybe what I want to do is not render them. Maybe I just want to put a camera that looks like it's the POV as they're falling. So let's try that. That's something that I hadn't thought of before. So let's just duplicate one of these maps. So let's duplicate. We could duplicate that one. Let's just duplicate it real quick and see. And we'll call this fall cam. Okay, so we'll create a new scene from scratch here. So since it's a duplicate, it has a lot of my Olympics from the other sequence. So I don't need that. I don't need any of these cameras. I don't need any of the Olympics. I'm just going to strip this out and make it very clean. And I'll just create a camera in here and just kind of find where I want this to go. So for this, I'll probably want to do a 2-pane setup, meaning I could just see the camera view on this side, and I can move the camera on this side. So let's turn on our letterbox. So you can see the black spots. Let's get rid of that. So r.raytracing. Enable two-sided geometry 0. Let's see why that didn't do that. Enable two-sided geometry 0. There you go. So you can see all the black spots are gone. Okay, cool. So let's find our camera here. And we'll bring this down. There we go. So this is going to be a chaotic camera, which is good. So let's set this to object rotations. So something like that can be pretty interesting. And what I'll probably do go to frame 1, add a keyframe on my timeline, go to world space, rotate this down. Something like that. Let's do that again. I screwed up. So push this down like that. Kind of center it a little bit better. Add another keyframe. So now we have this. Keep going. Rotate this. God, I'm super congested today. Terrible. Let's get this up here. Let's add another keyframe, and we'll get something that looks like that. Just total sanity. Let's go to the last frame. And add a keyframe. Okay, so let's go in between and kind of rotate it a little bit so it's not so clean. So you can see what I'm doing here. Just going in between my keyframes, offsetting it, adding a keyframe, going in between. So first broad keys, then get tighter, tighter, and tighter. And the tighter you get, the jerkier it's going to look, which is okay when you're falling down a cave. We'll set our aperture to 1, so we have a more shallow depth of field. An aperture of 1 is probably not something you would want in a real world scenario because you would get super shallow depth of field. But we kind of want that for this project because it kind of looked like dolls, and that's kind of what we want it to feel a little bit smaller. So you could see these kind of shots are what I want. Now remember, this is not showing us the motion blur. We'll get that once it's rendered, but it just feels really chaotic, which is great. So now I just want to zoom out and analyze the camera from a distance. Okay. So that's good. So let's save all. First, remember, save your sequencer. So right here, I'm going to save Premiere real quick. I have to close it or else I'm going to crash out for sure, especially if I'm streaming. And I'll set this back to one pane. These are all the precautions that we have to take all the time so we don't crash. Fall cam, let's call this fall cam. Let's make sure our project camera cuts are set to fall cam. So some people have asked me whether I do any of my editing in here, whether you could edit in here. You could, but I would never edit inside of this thing. Like, you know, you could use a bicycle to cut a pizza, but you shouldn't. It's kind of the same thing. Okay, so let's call this fall B. Let's put it in the folder. And we'll render that out. So the motion blur here is going to look pretty crappy because it's low quality settings, but that's okay. Let's give it a minute. You can see it just feels like chaos, which is awesome. That's exactly what I want. So let's close this up. Let's now open up Premiere again. This is the part that sucks. You have to constantly close it and open it, and it takes a moment to open it back up. But trust me, it's faster than when Unreal crashes. Okay, so let's open up our project again. So it used to be pretty good at having both of them, but I think as the files have gotten more and more complex, also as we've been re-rendering all this stuff at 3K, at 4K, sorry, it's running out of memory. So it's funny because we're rendering it at really high quality, high res, but we are not these that we're doing right now, but the final renders. But then we're adding a ton of grain, we're softening it, we're degrading it, we're adding scratches. So, yeah, we're making it look as crappy as possible, or as degraded as possible, I should say. Not crappy because we want it to look good, but we want it to look degraded. We want it to look like the exploitation movies that I was inspired by when we wrote this. So, okay, so fall B, so let's find that. So that's under my K fall sequence, fall B. So you can see here, I turn on image sequence. And when I try to play it, it does not bring in the sequence as an image sequence. So now you have to go back in, replace footage, and select the exact same thing that you did. And now it'll have the movement. So kind of pain in the butt, but it is what it is. All right, so let's grab that little section. Let's bring it in here. So I really like this where it goes to black. So I'm going to leave that last. So let's put this one in between here. So you can see it's just a stupid little shot, but it takes a while. So I like it. So let's put that in. You know, if you were falling down a cave, this is probably what it would look like. Yeah, it's true. I'm quite a philosopher. So, all right. So we got that. Let's take a look. Let's look at this little sequence here. Let's play it from right here and see. I like it. So let's try to see if we could grab, and let's just make another one like that. Just a little bit more chaos. Okay. I mean, they look like crappy shots, but they're super important to the sequence. So that's our a la fall cam. So cool. Let's duplicate that one. Fall cam B. Let's open up our sequence again. So for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, like we've gone through every freaking step of this process, every single thing. So some weeks are going to be boring. So if you know, if you look at this and you're like, oh my God, they're just doing blurry mess cameras. We have weeks where it's not just blurry mess cameras, but sometimes it's blurry mess cameras. So let's put that over here. So just adding keyframes again, and let's go to the last frame. So this is how I'll approach camera animation. I'll go to the first frame. Usually I'll go to the last frame. I know where I want to start. I know where I want it to end. Make sure we're in world mode. Right there. Okay. So now just push this down. Push this down some more. And let's just try that. So I'll just add a keyframe there. Go in between. Let's find our camera. Rotate it. I actually really liked how it looks when you see the sky up above. So let's try that. So let's save that. Okay, so now we have 3 keyframes, one in the beginning, the end, and the middle. Now we could go in between those. Find it. Really focusing on trying to get nice highlights because I know that that's probably all that's going to show up in the blur. So come over here, you can see that's just totally black. And certain areas going all black are fine. But if I could get it all black with a little bit of highlights like that, that's ideal. Okay, so now you can see we have this. So now I'm gonna go in between those guys, right? And this is in particular for like handheldy kind of shots. So nice highlights again. Let's put those guys in there. Let's find that right there. Let's try to find nice highlights. That's probably going to be as good as we're going to get. All right, so let's take a look at that. I am a little bit worried that it looks like we're not so low into the hole here. So maybe let's not look all the way up. Let's just do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. That looks much better. Okay. So again, we're doing chaos camera shots because someone is falling into a hole. So that's what it would look like. So let's render this out. So you know, a good example of like another shot that we did that are kind of similar is a little bit more artistic is when she throws the spear.
Wewe ni aibu kwa baba.
You can see so right there was 4 shots or 3 shots. So shot 1, 2, 3. So 3 shots, but they almost feel like a continuous shot. This one right here is basically just a big blur. What happened? Oh, I have this hidden. All right, so let's get that in here. So let's render that out. Since I'm gonna render, it sucks. I'm gonna save this, close Premiere. I know it sucks. And then let's just render this. Yeah, that escalated quickly. Well, if you watch the whole movie, you'll see that it doesn't escalate that quickly. She really does mess with her during the entire film. So she got what was coming. Maybe she didn't deserve that, but you know, this is Cain and Abel. That's what we're trying to do. It's Cain and Abel with these 2 sisters. In my theory that Abel was probably an asshole. He might have been the favorite one, but that doesn't mean he wasn't a dick to Cain. All right, so let's see. It seemed a bit boring as it progressed, but it's looking great. I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult, but okay, let's see. All right, let's see what we have here. So, all right, so I brought that in. You could see we're back to the same problem. We bring it in and it doesn't actually bring in all the frames. So let's put that in there. Let's put that in there. See what that looks like. So these lines right here, like you can see the motion blur looks very ugly. That's going to look much nicer once we render it high quality. So I'm not so worried about that. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. 1 second. Okay. Just checking the transfer of the renders, but it's gonna take a while. So all right, so that's good. That's good enough for the fall, I think. Let's look at what else we have to do here. So this whole bloody eye thing, I do want to have more blood in there. I might try to do the simulation with Bifrost. Let me see. All right, well, let's keep going. So let me just play it one more time. Let's see. You can see something that I've been doing a lot on this project is defocusing as a transition tool. I'll just defocus and I'll just blend into the next shot. I really like that effect, especially in like chaotic areas like this. It works really nicely. All right, so let's get the father kind of tones down a little bit here. I kind of want to hear him in the background a little bit more. So let's find that and extend that so that there's more sense of a panic. So let's see where this is. All right, it's right there. That's probably it right there. Okay, so let's find another thing here. Can't hear very well. Let's go to reveal in project.
Ngoja nijaribu kushuka.
Let's go to reveal and explore, and let's just find some more audio of him freaking out. So let's just see what we have here.
Yeah.
So this is like a recording session. So everything is recorded on Skype since they're all in all the cast is in Kenya or Tanzania.
Allah! 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 Allah!
Let me see. Let's try this one. Some of these breathing ones are pretty good. Let's see what we have here.
Ngoja nijaribu kushuka. Ngoja nijaribu kushuka.
Let's see what else we have here.
Ngoja nijaribu kushuka. 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 Ngoja nijaribu kushuka.
Let's take a look at this one here.
Kitu gani hiki? Hiki. Kitu gani hiki?
Let's look at this one. This is like just background mumblies, but maybe it could sound like some of the other guys in the background talking.
So I should just kuangalia tukio hili.
No, let's just grab this one here.
This is in the language screaming. Allah! 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 Allah!
Let's try this. I think I'm just going to grab some of the breathing. We'll just grab this little section here and throw it in there. Let's see. This one here.
Okay. By the way, Allah. Ngoja nijaribu kushuka.
So yeah, that's not working because it's just too repetitive. So let's grab this here again.
Allah! 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 By the way, mm, yeah. Allah! Allah!
All right, so like that right there sounds good. So we just want this sound as they're falling, so it's just adding to the chaos. So let's just grab that. We'll put the in point and out point. Let's come over here. So right there, there's a little gap. So this is his voice here.
Allah! Allah! Allah!
Right? Let's just go to essential sound, dialogue. We'll make it in a large room. Boost, male voice, large reflective room. We'll put it as a church. We'll increase the size of the room. Let's make it bigger. Let's make the room a little bit bigger here as well. Okay, so she's falling into the hole, so we want the volume to slowly die out. So it'll be louder as it starts. Let's probably get rid of the first Allah here. So we have this here. So I'll get rid of that first one. I don't want it. I just want the second one. Right there. Shift that over here. Okay, we'll add a point here and a point here and a point here, and we'll just start dropping down the sound volume. So it'll sound like it's starting to fall in the distance. Let's make it a little bit more noticeable. So we'll lower this curve. Stretch this out so that we keep the reverb echo, even though it's low. Stretch this out a little bit. All right, so let's see it all together. So that's the father calling the daughters.
Baba, nisaidie. Siwezi kufika.
Ngoja nijaribu kushuka.
Gotta get the mouth in there. That sounds much better. So let's just get. I kind of conflicted about it because I kind of just want to hear her scream. I want to be a little bit more evil and just hear her yelling and not the father. So let's just see. I'm gonna lower his voice a little bit, and let's have hers be a little bit louder. So I'll solo this layer just to make sure this is it. So what is this? So that's not it. So let's find her screaming layer. It's probably one of these guys over here. Looks like it's this long one here. I could almost like spot it now just by looking at the wave. So right there. So let's make this a little bit louder. And then that seems to be the secondary scream. So let's bring that up. Let's bring that up a little bit. So this sound here has actually been stretched. Yeah, that might be it, just one scream of the father. It's too much. I think I agree. Yeah, the voice actors are great. It was a pain in the butt to find them because they're on the other side of the earth, but it was great. I'm glad we went with proper Swahili actors instead of English. That comes from my father yelling at the TV every time the Germans spoke English in World War II movies, and that left an imprint on me as a kid. So every project we've done, with the exception of the first one, has the one we did before this. A big portion of it is all in Japanese. This one is all in Swahili. It makes it more fun, and it makes the world feel more real. All right, so I like that yell better. So let's just look at the dad here. So let's just use one of the yells. So let's just use this one. So let's bring up the volume a tiny bit here, and I'm going to just bring it down right at the beginning so we don't hear any of the noise from the previous yell. So just bring this up a tiny bit here, bring this up a little bit. Let's see. You can see the huge difference it makes just by adding those effects to it. So if I come over here and I turn this all off, it's not very cool. Right? And then the minute we go in here and we add our de-essers, our dynamic processing, our equalizer, our reverb in particular, now he's in the cave. Yeah, it's the final call. I'm still not sure that's the take though, so let me just see. I kind of like that one with the breathing. Let's just take a look and see. I like the breathing a lot. I like that one. That's the winner right there. So, all right. So let's just come over here, mark our in point and our out point. Kind of gets a little weird.
Hello! 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 Hello!
Let's see what just happened. So that was. All right, so let's just find that again. I lost it.
Hello!
That's the one I want. So let me just see where it is here. So mark the in point and out point. Let's just put it in here and take a look.
Allah!
So that sounds much better.
Allah! Allah! Allah!
That one, I just like that it lasts a little bit longer. So, all right, so we'll just come over here, dialogue, filters, enlarge room, boost, male voice, and we'll set to search. I'll increase the amount, and you can see it's going to sound great. Okay, then I'll just come over here and just mark basically the fade out points. You don't want to fade it out right away, especially if you're doing a heavy reverb, because part of the thing that makes it feel like it's in a cave is the echo. So if I cut it out too soon, check that out if I cut it too early. See how you could feel the sound is just stopping? You got to make it go a little bit longer. So when you look at this, you can see the sound is ending for the most part right here. That is the yell. But we need all this time for that echo to ring. All right, so that's good. So let's get rid of that one. Let's find our timing here. So we'll unsolo everything. Right there, in between that gap of the other scream, I'll have her go. Oh, I like it. Pretty cool. All right, so let's adjust the timing a little bit. All right, cool. Bring this in a tiny bit more. Yeah, it's a 2 calls before the end of the sequence. So yeah, that's working better. So, all right, so let's see what else we got. All right, that's good. So by next week, we'll basically have the entire edit finished. Probably looking much better, this whole section here. But okay, so let's see what else. We did this one here. This one's crazy because she barely looks like she's even moving. She's so small. That's actually like a huge move. Like that right there is exactly this move here. But from the beginning of that motion, you can see it's a pretty big move. If I come over here and I play the whole thing, your eyes don't work in the beginning, but you see it's a pretty big move. It just doesn't read at the distance. So you can see her face is dead because that's not part of the shot. It doesn't matter. When it's really far away, it works. But as soon as she kicks into the shot mode, her face and her eye line works. Of course, she has no clothing at the moment, but she will. So, yeah. So by next week, I'll be passing this on to Tran. She'll be making it look better. I'm going to jump back to the first scene where she gets like seduced by this evil hole and getting all of that to feel better. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Like all this clothing sims, all this stuff is looking pretty good. The wind is working really well. I got to get the liquid in here, the blood. But yeah, pretty happy with it all so far. So the end is
Baba
here.
nakutafuta, lazima twende sasa hivi. Mkaka yako karibia unichome. Sasa hivi.
This is probably my favorite shot. Just the wind here looks so freaking cool.
Sasa hivi ningetaka kukuchoma, ningekuchoma. Lazima twende. Ngoja tuone kama utapenda.
All right, so that's it for today, guys. So thank you for joining. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap this up? If not, then we'll package this up and close it up. So yeah, so thanks everyone. Thanks to Gnomon, Lenovo, and Alex for making this possible. And yeah, I know I was whiny today because we're just exhausted, and every crash now pushes us back. So yeah, we're very grateful for all these programs existing. So I complain, but I love them all. So cool. So all right, guys. So thanks, and I will see you next week. If you want to follow us on halfemptystudios.com, Half Empty Studios at Instagram. That's where we post any updates. And yeah, this is Miguel Ortega and Tran Film. And thank you guys for tuning in. That's a lot.